Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for tuning in to another edition of the G.O.W, the Generational Wrestling Podcast. As always, is yours truly, the 28-year-old piece of gold, the franchise, aka the showstopper, better known as the G.O.W's resident tribal chief. And with me, as always, I got my tag team partner, my brother, my family. He is the flyest in the room, Mr. 1, 2, 3. Pin that ass down, K Breezy, aka EC's resident Isaac Cage, King Tuco in the building. Bro, what's going on?
I was checking to see if he was gonna remember me this time, man. I'm like, all right, you halfway there, you halfway there. All right, you got it, you got it. What's
Oh,
good with
man.
y'all, man? It's Thursday, Evil Thursdays, man. In today's show, it's all about the franchise's boo, his one and only. Uh his second true love, I make sure to say that, just in case he don't get in no trouble. But Sasha Banks. So, we're gonna talk about her. Leo, man, what's good, man? Too cold, just let franchise speak on this one. Sit back and relax. That's what I plan on doing. That's why he hosting the show. I'm just here. I'm just here. That's all. I'm just here for decoration, man. Just for all intents and purposes. But other than that, man, let's get into it, man.
Well, speaking of, all right, man, so like you said, today is WWE Evil Recap, episode number 3. Of course, you know what I'm saying, the LEGIT, BOSS, the boss, the blueprint, the standard, original four-horsewoman, you know what I'm saying, Grand Slam champion, future first ballot Hall of Famer, Sasha Banks. That's
Most
what this
definitely.
one, that's what this episode is focused on. Yeah, man, but all jokes aside, bro, I'm really looking forward to getting into this one for many reasons. Obviously, we already know. She's my current favorite, but just to throw it out there in the wrestling universe, if anybody must know, my overall GOAT to me personally, Trish Stratus, definitely that's who got me on that one. But Sasha Banks is definitely a close number 2, very super duper close.
Mhm,
Now, with that being said,
mhm.
man, Tuco, all right, Sasha Banks, right? Came in WWE NXT, former NXT Women's Champion, former Tag Team Women's Champion, like I said, Grand Slam Champion. Dude, one of the original 4 horsewomen, of course, with Becky, Charlotte,
Bailey,
who else am I missing?
Bailey,
Becky, Charlotte, and Bailey.
Bailey.
But I feel like a woman who kind of gets overlooked, that was also a huge part of this women's revolution, this whole era from 2013, 14, 15, is Paige. I feel like Paige is kind of like, that person who she doesn't get as much credit, I feel, as far as what she's done in that era as well. Now, I talked to you before we
Well,
went on.
well, part of that is because she came out way before them.
True,
That's the thing. And when she came out, it was still the Divas era. She was winning the
that's true.
Divas championship. So, and she was kind of the spark of like the one few women that could wrestle, or the newer women that was like, oh wow, she's actually pretty good. We want to see more of her. But unfortunately, she was still in the stagnant women's division. She was like one of the few bright spots in it, but and that's why she doesn't get that, because by the time they all started coming up, she was on her way out. So it
Yeah.
wasn't like she wasn't a part of that revolution of having the multitude of women that we got coming up.
Now, like I said, talking about the WWE Evil series, dude, man, the Sasha Banks we got now is a completely different Sasha Banks that first came into NXT, that first came into WWE. Even when she originally first became the boss character, you still didn't. You knew something was there, but it still wasn't this. This one is somebody who has traveled the world. This is somebody who's had many
Nah.
classic matches. This is somebody who knows her place in the industry and in the history books. But let's talk about, we can't talk about her without talking about some of her great rivalries. Let's talk about Charlotte Flair. Man, too cold. You talk about the greatest of all time. I said that Sasha is one of my goats. Trish Stratus is number 1 for me. But if you're looking at it from an accolade standpoint, if you're looking at it from an entertainment standpoint, if you're looking at it from a purely wrestling and literally genetic standpoint, you can't get no better than Charlotte Flair. What are your memories, man? What are your thoughts on the rivalry with Charlotte Flair and Sasha Banks? And then what will go on from NXT into, of course, the main roster now, as they are arguably, you can make the case, 2 of the best currently and 2 of the top ever.
Well, first and foremost, man, I thought you give your girl a little bit more love and respect than that, man. Sasha Banks' first run, her before she became the boss, yeah, that was a bit stagnant, but that was also her, after she had left the independents, and transitioned over to the WWE style and WWE and NXT. But when she became the boss and she became a legit heel, and she was that antagonizing heel. She antagonized the fans. She antagonized the wrestlers. She antagonized everybody. She did every. If you look at some of the things that she just did the entire time that she was the boss, it was evident that there was something there as that villain. I feel like the NXT version of Sasha Banks, to me, truly is the better version than her
Mm,
main roster version. Uh, just because she was more vicious. She had more venom.
yeah,
I
yeah,
you got too much of the watered down version on when you got to the main roster, man. Only Charlotte seems to be the true legit. Sasha, Becky now, Bailey when she had her little run, but yeah, it only seems like there's certain moments when they can be that vicious. But to me, I feel like Sasha Banks as a heel in NXT was more profound than her main roster. But her rivalry with Flair, what can you say? I mean, it's Charlotte Flair. It's the daughter of the 16-time, two-time Hall of Famer. Uh, so there's nothing else you can really say other than they were good for each other. They definitely complemented each other as far as their 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 heart to want to win, to be the best, to compete, and also put on one of the best matches, not to outshine the other person, but to go out there and put on a great match with somebody and create that spark of which it became, man. And we saw what it did when they first got called up to the main roster and they were on Raw and they were going back and forth with the women's championship. Like we saw what that could be, and it was great. It was just sad what happened after it because it was like Charlotte went way up here and then Sasha went way down here.
yeah,
Excuse me, but I'm sorry, I was burping. I'm sorry. But and you have that. So as far as my fond memory, I feel like her rivalry with Bailey was
and
really the more that's where she put the sauce on the boss. Like
yeah,
that's where, yo man, just interact. I mean, come on, man, because Bailey had the Bailey fan. She had the little Bailey fan that was sitting in the front row,
yeah,
and you
yes,
got
he
Sasha
is.
Banks taking this little girl's pigtails and whining at him, just being a real bitch, and just oh my god. And then their matches that they had, just all the matches they've had, they all had great matches with her, but the ones that really stand out, obviously, man, are your Brooklyn takeovers
Yeah,
uh, with
yeah,
Sasha Banks and Bailey. So if for me, I would have to say the most profound. Sorry, my wife must be getting home now. Kid dog's going a little crazy. But if I got to say most profound rivalry, I would say is Bailey because I feel like that had way more impact just because Bailey was so beloved and Sasha was so hated and you just the level, the lengths of what they went to sell that match with each other.
I mean, it's funny. I also feel that way too because I feel like with Sasha and Bailey, you know, not only were they good or great in the ring together, but in real life they had that chemistry. They were best friends. Just like I feel like Charlotte and Becky. I feel like their rivalry was the best out of those two. Because in real life they were legit best friends. Then when you got in the ring, you had that history there. As far as Sasha and Bailey, though, I will say the thing that I like the most about this is you had literally so many flip flops between Sasha is the good person, Bailey is the heel, and then they had their beef, and then you flipped it, and then they had their beef. But the thing, the funny part about it is, you've always had moments where it seemed like one would turn on the other, but they would never quite do it. So it's like we get there, we get there, we get there. Nope.
Yeah, yeah,
We get there, we get there, we get there. Nope. Like something would happen, somebody would get injured, or another store, like another person would enter the fold, and then you kind of just forgot about that for a second, or they magically became tag team. Like something always
yeah,
intervened to where as soon as you thought we was about to get that turn, no. Or even when you kind of got a quick glimpse, I believe Bailey had attacked Sasha Banks, I think here in Cleveland, and slammed her up against the
mm.
lockers. He had that whole beat down, and then
Right, right,
shortly
right.
after, it was like that was it. Or when you had the Elimination Chamber match and Bailey was climbing on top of the pod, and then you had Sasha, stomp on her hand and knock her off, and then it's like, but still not full yet. And then eventually, you will get there. But okay, so let's talk about inspiration, because a lot of times, man, a lot of these wrestlers, uh, you can kind of tell who they are inspired by their character or their move set. Sasha has expressed, on numerous occasions, anytime she gets a chance, that she was inspired by none other, Latino Heat, Eddie Guerrero, not only one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, but one of the greatest entertainers of all time. Eddie, not only could he kill it in the ring, but he can kill it with his character. He can kill it with his story. He can kill it with, the looks and the sales and just the little intangibles that you can't teach. And then you see Sasha, she comes out to the ring. She got the little things, right? The facial expressions. You see the lying, the cheating, the stealing. You see her when she come out. You see, the tights and the flames and, the whole swag with the gear. The whole presentation is like, even when Eddie was a heel, he was still cool, right? Like, even when you wanted to boom, like, dude, like, heel Eddie was already cool as fuck as a face. He was already that guy. And then when he turned heel, it just made him even cooler, because it's like, dude, you such a badass, but you own that shit. That's
And
what
well, that's because you had different versions of his heel. Like he had the more the kind of more jokey heel, more which
yeah.
was him and Chavo. Like, cause him and Chavo were heels. They
Bro,
weren't
the
they
Los
weren't always
Guerreros
face.
was
They
my shit.
they weren't always Latino. He was a heel. He wasn't a face. He was a heel. So. You had different versions of his heel, and then when it got to Dominic, he was the more methodical, more sinister heel. So you
Yeah.
had different versions of Eddie Guerrero's heel, which it just shows his range and what he can do. And for her to see that and to use that as her inspiration to want to be the boss is good. And she's done pretty well with it. She's found a way to I to be a great face and to be a great heel. So it's not like she hasn't figured that out, but obviously she had a great teacher and someone that she watched and she mentored and she mimicked and she worked on, and she did, and she made it her own, and her making it her own, and she definitely stands out from a lot of other people. So she accomplished that, and like I said, not a bad person, to want to look after, man. Latino Heat. I mean, yeah. A lot of cheating and stealing, man. But Eddie was definitely that dude, man, that can give you he can give you everything, man. He can do the heel thing, make you laugh, and still piss you off that he beat someone that you wanted him to beat, that you wanted him to lose to. So that's just the testament of how great they were, and she's that way now. If Joe was watching this now, and I mean Joey V, if he was watching this right now, what he would be saying. But yeah, Sasha's definitely had picked a great mentor, somebody to mimic the boss as far as the level of tactics and as far as what she'll go.
Well, let's talk about as far as she'll go, because she had a reputation early on as being injury prone, whether that was real, true, fake, false. You had that, and then you also had a lot of hot potato title changes. There was that stigma that even when she won the title, she would never hold it long enough to defend it on a big stage. I believe up until this year, if I'm not mistaken, she was 0-6 at WrestleMania, I believe.
Yeah, she had never won a title on WrestleMania.
Yeah,
I don't think she ever won at WrestleMania.
she
Period.
never, exactly. So, and when you look at her career, the totality of it, you're like, okay, future first ballot Hall of Famer, of course, right? Legend, of course, right? But then when you when you break down the accolades a little bit, do you feel like she has done enough? Like, rephrase, do you feel
Yes,
like she's reached her ceiling,
yes,
or do you feel like there's still more to go?
both. Uh, Even though she was 0-6 at WrestleMania, if you look back at all 6 of those matches, I would say probably 4 out of 6 of those matches were probably really good WrestleMania matches. So it's not the fact that she didn't win, but the fact that she was part of a great match on the biggest stage of them all, which that in itself is a win. Yes, of course, getting the win means more, but you're on the card for WrestleMania. So to say that she's 0-6, meaning you're a constant player
Yeah,
on the WrestleMania card.
yeah,
Yeah, you that's a win. So, all right, cool. As far as her career, I mean, NXT Women's Champion, Tag Team Champion, Raw Champion, SmackDown Champion. Unless they come up with a Women's Mid Card Championship, which I don't see them doing no time soon. Uh, she's done it. She's main evented. She's won a championship. She retained it against a quality opponent in Bailey. She's headlined and now she's won at WrestleMania. She's a Grand Slam champion. She's the boss. She is one of the top players in the business. I mean, Bianca beating her last year propelled Bianca to the moon. That right there is a win. I mean, there wasn't no Charlotte Flair, there was no Becky Lynch, there was no Bailey. That was Sasha Banks, and yeah. So that right there, yes, it all speaks for itself. Win, losses, but you got to look at the totality of it, man. She's won everything, and you got to look at what she did during the pandemic. I'm sorry, you can't ignore that.
yeah.
Like
Her
you
and
can't
Bailey.
ignore her and Bailey's
Yeah,
run and just keeping
yeah,
that women's division up afloat, along with Asuka. You
yeah.
you
Oscar,
can't those
yes,
three like
yes.
there was quite a few others, but those three like it took almost it took almost a whole year for them to beat everybody on respected shows and then to finally cross over and then fight each other in some weird way or whatever, which would lead to
Yeah,
finally Bailey losing her championship after she had held it for damn near 2 years, and then Sasha Banks getting the Raw championship while being the women's tag team champ. They were holding all the belts, like
yeah.
so. Even for Bailey, even if you ask that question about Bailey, it's like even now for Bailey at that moment, like at that moment in time, like yeah, man, they've reached the status. Hell, actually, they reached the status that Charlotte and Becky Lynch didn't really quite reach. Flair reached it when she won the tag titles with Asuka, but that was after Bailey and Sasha.
Right,
So it was
right.
like you every they each have their mark that submits them in history. Becky's got the she's got the yes movement. I mean, not the man movement.
Hmm.
Sasha came in as the boss. Charlotte was the daughter of Ric Flair. Bailey came in as the lovable. Like I remember, she came in as the lovable character.
Yeah,
Everyone loved Bailey, the underdog. Keep on fighting. And then she turned on everybody. And then she did a great heel. Like I
yeah,
love Bailey's heel.
yeah,
Like
yeah. Heel Bailey.
she
Yeah,
Hill Bailey was on something else, and I
yeah.
loved it. So they all have their niche in this company. But for Sasha Banks, yes, she has done enough to where she will go into the Hall of Fame. she's she's won on big pay per views. She's had big matches. She's part of big matches. She's won everything. So yeah, I definitely put her up there.
All right, so let me ask you this. Right now, Sasha Banks was to retire today. Has she done enough of her career? You think, as a fan, right now, to justify Hall of Fame vote?
Hell yeah, because some people would argue you would put Becky Lynch in, and I would argue I would put the last 2 years of Becky Lynch in, but I wouldn't put the first 5 years of Becky Lynch in.
All right.
So it's like if you want to, you kind of got to look at it like that. Like you can't tell me Sasha Banks' hot start. She might have cooled off in between, but she had a hot start. Like she came in the gate, battling it out with Charlotte. Then injuries and shit started to mount up. Becky came in with a hot start, but she quickly failed. And she stayed there for a long time until 2 years ago. So it's like, and Bailey's always stayed steady. She's always stayed steady because she was a fan favorite. Then she became a heel. Then she became one of the top heels because people were so upset that she turned on the baby, but she did the John Cena thing that we all wish John Cena would have did. But
Right, right, right. Yeah,
it
yeah.
is what it is, and Charlotte's just Charlotte, so it is what it is. But if I had to say right now, with the credentials of what she's done, yes, I would put her in the Hall of Fame.
Okay, so you got John Cena, you got The Rock, you got Batista, you got these larger than life players, man, who made their name in WWE and then have went on to done massive other things. I mean, you got The Rock, that one of the I believe the highest paid movie actor of all
Action move,
time.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you got Dave Batista, who is one of the best overall not comedian, excuse me, one of the best overall actors of all time. Because
The
The Rock, the Rock has his movies, but he's got very specific movies. Batista, even though he's mostly known as Drax, he's literally done every type of what's up.
Oh my God, no, no, that's what I was gonna say, manager. He's more, he has a more range. His movies are more range.
Rangy, yeah,
His movies, like a lot of his movies, man. Even if if he's a side plot or the main character,
yeah,
like he plays something that's very interesting. He has so much range, and you wouldn't
yeah,
believe it, but I would believe it because I've watched him play a character for about 8 or 9 years
yeah.
in wrestling. So it's like the Rock action movie wise, yeah, he's the biggest.
I
Yeah,
think
he's that dude.
I think what carries The
But
Rock over is his charisma, but Batista
it
talent
does.
wise, but I believe
It
talent wise, Batista's the better actor.
it is, and he is because he plays different roles and different characters. But I don't think The Rock is that bad at playing a different character. I think he's just because of his build and how he is, he's just so, he just he's the new action guy. We always get that new action dude, that new dude with that new hot guy in the action and and adventure shit. And that's The Rock. Like that's what he is, man. That's where he's making those big bucks. But Batista, because Batista was never the popular guy like The Rock. So you got to take that in consideration. So his approach was smaller, and he learned to do, and he took different roles. He took on roles where, and one he's a he's a I don't he was a security guy for a casino. You know what I'm saying? They robbed a casino. So he's a guy that's a desperate dude. He's played a comedic spy. He's played a bumbling cop. He's played different little things that you wouldn't think a guy like him could play, but show that he has range in it. So yeah, his role started out very small, where The Rock was coming out
Scorpion King.
right,
Yeah.
blockbuster after blockbuster. So it was like his takeoff was different than Batista's, but that's what separates Batista. But that's what I like about Batista because it allowed him to have a different range than The Rock and do a lot of different movies. And he's got a lot of movies that he's out and that he's in uh, that I really like that he shows out in, man. So yeah, I like him for two different reasons, just for different styles of movie and what they present. But I know where you're going with that, and I'm gonna bring it up now. Yes, I do think that Sasha Banks has a career in in that field because of what she's doing and all these other. I mean, she is, dude. Sasha Banks, the boss, is a character. That's a whole character in itself. So do I see her doing the Mandalorian and a little few other little things? Could that lead her to some other stuff? It sure can. It very much sure could. So it's very feasible that she can be one of the next few stars. Uh, Especially if once she finds that role that really makes people galvanize to her. Like it's cool to see her in the Mandalorian, but not everybody's watching Star Wars. Only
Right.
Star Wars heads are watching Star Wars, or
Right.
some wrestling fans that that may watch it just to see her. But only Star Wars fans are really watching that. So uh, you need something that galvanizes a lot of people. And once she finds that role and then she knocks that shit out, then hell yeah, man, she'll do it.
All right, man. Last thing before we get off of here, man, and wrap up this episode. Too cold. We talked about her career so far. We talked about NXT. We talked about WWE. We talked about her legacy in the ring. We talked about her inspiration to Eddie Guerrero. We talked about potential Hollywood aspirations. Let me ask you this.
What's up?
When you look at overall,
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about every era of women's wrestling that you could think of
Mm-hmm.
up until now,
Mm-hmm.
generationally, because
Mm-hmm.
this is the debate in sports a lot. Because a lot of times people say, well, you can't compare eras because you might have this person above this person, but in this person's era and in this person's day, he was the top in his day. So you very rarely have those people who can transcend eras evenly. If you're looking at it right now, especially looking at the era we came out of, which was the Divas era in professional wrestling, where would you put Sasha in your rankings if you had to come up with a top 10 or a top 20 right now? Would she be at the top, middle, or end of your list, and why?
So for me, damn, excuse me, my women's list has to go to Trish and them. Like it has to start from there because I mean you had Alundra Blaze. Like Alundra Blaze is kind of like an automatic pick.
Mm-hmm.
Uh and for me, she's an automatic pick because she was really the only really good women's wrestler. Uh
Yeah, yeah,
she was really the only really good one. Uh that was really there, that was consistent. So she's like an automatic on my top 10. Um, Sasha Banks is in my top 10. When there's a lot of women that I like, uh, and I'm fans of them. I won't give you my top 10 because I gotta actually remember everybody, and I can't remember everybody right now. But I can say without a shadow of doubt, just with a few names off the top of my head, just thinking about it, Sasha Banks is definitely in my top 10. Where would I place her in that top 10? She'll be somewhere in the middle. Um, but yeah, why? Because she's good. She's accomplished. She has everything. She can do promos. She's good in the ring. She has a hell of a character. She has she has great history on what as far as when you look at her career and some of the matches and some of the things that she has done to build herself up, again, man, I harp back on Brooklyn because I feel like that Iron Man match, especially with Bailey having that broken hand and just the
yeah,
little things that she did
yeah,
in that match to really just put over her viciousness. Like I feel like she's always found the way to make her mark, at some point in time through her career, at little intricate parts of when she ever had a run. So there's always been that moment where she's done something. But I would put her in the top 10. I'm definitely not going to disregard the boss because she's one of the best. I mean, people still like her, outside of Joey V. But outside of that, people love the boss. They love to hate her, they love to love her. So you just love her. But yeah, yeah. She's definitely one of the best. You can't disregard what she's done and what she could contribute. Uh, and if you put her in a match with somebody that you're not too familiar with, but it's somebody that may surprise you. Sasha Banks is definitely a good person to put in the ring to put somebody over. Like she can make people look good too. So that's what matters to me as a wrestling fan. How well, not only how well you can do, but how well can you make other people look. That I've always been fascinated with because John Cena's never been one of the greatest wrestlers. So anytime you saw him go up against a Kurt Angle or Shawn Michaels, and you think, man, I know what type of match those guys can have if I seen it with
right.
somebody else. But to see them have a match with a guy like that, it's like wow. And then to see the two matches that they had, it's like wow, those were actually really great matches. Like
Yeah, yeah.
that took it to another level. And Sasha Banks is that type of person for me. So I look at people who can take people to another level. When they get in the ring with you, they got to bring their A game. So y'all A game can go to an A+ game.
With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that will wrap up episode number 3 of our WW Evil review series. Let's see, we got Hogan out the way, we got Miz out the way, we got Banks out the way. Kuko, man, tell them who we got for number 4 next week.
Man, next week, man, we got the Brothers of Destruction, man. We got the Brothers of Destruction, man. We got
Yeah,
that Kane and that Undertaker, man. And I can't wait till we talk about them. So,
yeah,
yeah, man, yeah, I got this one. I had to let him take over on this one because it was his girl. I had to respect. I didn't want to get fired. But yeah, man. No, next week, man, we got the Brothers of Destruction. You got you got the brothers from the hood, and we're gonna talk about the Brothers of Destruction, and we're gonna do what we do, man.
yes, sir. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for tuning in to another episode of Generational Wrestling Podcast. It's yours truly, the 28-year-old piece of gold. He's too cold. And until next time, which is tomorrow for our maybe Friday
Hey.
Night SmackDown, but for sure our AEW Rampage review show.
We'll give you 10 minutes. We'll give you 10 minutes because we're gonna crap on
Yeah,
it. We're
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
crap
yeah.
on it because
Yeah, we
it's
shall
gonna.
we shall see what happens. But of course, we're gonna be here regardless. But with that being said,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you when we see you, and that's the bottom line because the franchise says so. Peace.